Hello everyone, how are you doing? Here I am with another Musings video on... It's gone out of my head. What is it? Oh! Oh, so aptly named, when everything is going wrong. Okay, so this I get asked all of the time. So many people come to me. I get lots and lots of you guys SOSing me emails saying, you know, everything's gone wrong, panicking, you know, and this really is just my little, like, this is what I do. These are the things that I tell myself. These are the things that I tell clients when in this situation. Okay, so the first thing to remember is when you feel like everything is going wrong, the first thing to remember is that there are no mistakes, guys. Okay, this is happening for a reason. Okay, now that can sound really trite, really annoying. I wouldn't necessarily recommend saying it quite so bluntly to somebody else, but you can certainly remind yourself of this when you are in some sort of crisis situation. You know, yeah, it is horrible when you feel like everything around you is going wrong. And it's not to devalue what's happening, but what happens is people come to me, they say, you know, or I have it in my own life when everything's going wrong and you think, you know, how am I going to pull myself out of this? You must, the first thing probably that I should have said is that this isn't a case of don't feel what you're feeling, you've got to pretend that it's not happening and move forward. Absolutely not. I'm totally all for honouring the feelings, and particularly if something really upsetting has happened, you do need to give yourself time to grieve, you do need to give yourself time to mourn. It doesn't have to be somebody dying, it can be something going wrong in your life, something happening in your life which is really upsetting. You know, you need to allow yourself, don't make yourself wrong for having the feelings. But this is kind of like, what do I do when everything's going wrong, when everything's gone wrong, and I'm trying to pick myself back up again, okay? So tell yourself that, understand that, and this is what I tell myself, that everything happens for a reason, and that everything that is happening is, when I say it's meant to happen, that can upset a lot of people. So I'm not going to say it's meant to happen, because then that brings up, let's just call it like it is, let's go there, then that is very upsetting for people who find out that themselves or someone that they love has something wrong with them, because it's like, oh, well, that was meant to happen to you. That sounds just dreadful. I think what people really mean when they say that is that it's all part of the path. It's not meant to happen. You didn't make it happen with your negative thoughts or whatever, but that it's part of the path, and that even things that are difficult can have positive aspects. You can come through it. Okay, let's go somewhere else that maybe makes some people uncomfortable. You know, like, we may have a situation, we're all going to die eventually, so then maybe something happens that is life-threatening and it's not pleasant, but it's going to happen to us all. So yes, not every situation is going to be a situation that a person is going to come out from alive. But those things aside, those situations aside, which, let's be honest, it's going to happen to us all eventually one day. But that aside, you know, even the most difficult of circumstances can bring about a positive situation or outcome. Like, for example, I've had 2 nervous breakdowns in my life, you know, and they were really, really awful. So it's not like saying, oh, well, it's all meant to be, you know, in some sort of like really sweeping statement that kind of doesn't honour the, you know, the pain or whatever. But at the same time, it's part of the path. And what I've found is that it was terrible at the time, but I've gained a lot of positive things from it. Would I want to choose to experience it again? Probably not. Would I say to someone who's having a nervous breakdown, oh, brilliant, you're going to really enjoy this, it's going to be amazing, you're going to get loads of great stuff out of it? No, I wouldn't say that, but you get the point I'm trying to make. So I just wanted to be clear on that, because when I say, like, there are no mistakes and, like, everything's meant, or, you know, everything is part of the path, I just don't want people to misunderstand what I mean by that. So, right, now let's move on to what I see as like the next point. So when everything's going wrong, aside from sort of telling yourself that actually it's not the end of the world, which is basically the point one that I was trying to make in my normal roundabout way. Um, the second point I want to make is that a lot of the time, particularly now I'm talking about relationship dramas, I'm talking about things that often aren't life or death, okay? Doesn't mean they're not painful, doesn't mean they don't make us feel like we're going insane, you know, doesn't mean they're not really, really bad for us and they make us feel terrible. What we do often is we tell ourselves that we shouldn't be upset. We have this belief that I shouldn't feel like this. I want to get rid of it. We're embarrassed or feel ashamed, or we're annoyed with ourselves that we feel upset. So that's kind of part of the thing that I said to start with. So when everything's going wrong, honour it. Honour the way you feel. So I think as an absolute first thing, like I said to start with, when something happens, you need to just honour the feelings. Because if you push them aside, it's only going to give you drama in the long term. But then when you're starting to, you know, come out of it and you're wanting to move forwards, you know, the first thing is to understand that it's all part of the path. The second thing is still to do the same sort of thing again, as I was mentioning at the beginning. So you need to honour the feelings. Understand that it's okay to feel upset, because actually when something happens to us that really upsets us, telling ourselves that we shouldn't feel the way we do feel makes ourselves wrong and causes ourselves all sorts of turmoil and unnecessary upset, okay? And then the third thing, when everything's going wrong, don't pick over what's happened. This is the thing, it's like, the subtle difference here is like when we start going back over what's happened and we started adding like mental commentary to it. So saying, oh, you know, like, well, this is some sort of punishment because of something I did, or, you know, this whole thing, particularly as well with like the law of attraction, oh, I didn't have good enough thoughts, that's ridiculous as well. You know, like, don't do that to yourself. You know, there are no mistakes. Even if you have made a mistake, it's not really a mistake, because you're going to learn something from it. Something's going to come, good's going to come from it ultimately, because, you know, that is what happens, you know, as we go along. We know that, you know, something happens, like I was just saying with my nervous breakdown. There were negative things to come through from it, and there were positive things to come from it, you know, and like, I'm going to use a silly example now, like with a positive situation, like when I've got with a new boyfriend and it's been really, really nice, but I've put on like 2 stone because I'm just so happy and loved up that I'm eating all the time. Yeah. So I'm using a silly example. The point I'm trying to make is, if you step back and look at the whole situation of life and the whole trajectory of life, in positive situations, you get positive things and negative things come from them. In negative situations, you get positive things and negative things come from them. Doesn't mean you need to like them, but it's that like pushing against that we're trying to avoid. So when everything's going wrong, don't tell yourself this shouldn't have happened to me, or this shouldn't be happening. Don't beat yourself up about it. And the second thing is, don't tell yourself you're wrong for feeling the way you feel. Honour your feelings, and be kind to yourself. Be a good friend to yourself about them. And the third thing is to understand that there are no mistakes, you know, and that you haven't made a mistake. I think this is more when you've done something that you perceive as wrong, and it's so tempting, isn't it, to like go back over it. But if you just think, well, everything is somehow moving me along. Sorry about that. Someone's in a hurry to get somewhere on my street, clearly. I don't know whether you heard that. Something was different, something had a different outcome than you thought, something, the course has changed. You know, the trajectory of where you're going has slightly altered, but it doesn't have to be bad. There's going to be good things that come from it and bad things that come from it. And I think that this is the way we kind of like calm ourselves down and we give ourselves relief. Okay? I might just pop, because I kind of ramble quite a lot there, I might just pop somewhere here on the screen the 3 points that I've just made. And then I want to read a quote from Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. Guys, he is just amazing. If you haven't read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, is it Silence Speaks? I don't know. I'm not sure. His second little book, but The Power of Now and Stillness Speaks. I don't know. It's really annoying. I've got like a total mental block of it. And it's like a little book of quotations almost of his little, rather than it being like a normal book format. It's almost like just little quotes. I've got it by my bed. I look at it all the time. I'm sure it's Stillness Speaks. I'm not sure. But anyway. So that book and A New Earth. And they're just amazing. He's so good at talking about and helping you to understand suffering and what he calls ego. I would call it dysfunctional ego. Yeah. So, but anyway, I just wanted to read you a quote that I've got about suffering that has come from A New Earth. He says, suffering has a noble purpose. The evolution of consciousness and the burning up of the ego. The man on the cross is an archetypal image. He is every man and woman. As long as you resist suffering, it is a slow process because the resistance creates more ego to burn up. When you accept suffering, however, there is an acceleration of that process, which is brought about by the fact that you suffer consciously. In the midst of conscious suffering, there is transmutation. The fire of suffering becomes the light of consciousness. I just thought that was kind of a nice quote to end on. And I think that that's so cool to think about, is the fact that actually this concept that when something goes wrong in our lives, it's like it shouldn't be there. This shouldn't be happening to me. It's just such a false perception and something that we really, really do need to remind ourselves just isn't true. It should be happening because it is happening, you know? And lots of good things are going to come from it. Just like there are lots of bad things that you are aware of happening at the minute. But lots of good things are going to come from it too. Just like when something good happens, it has negative and positive consequences. Because we live in a dualistic world, you know, where everything has positive and negative. So don't be peeved with yourself and with life when negative things happen. Because, and don't beat yourself up about it. Equally, don't devalue or diminish or try to ignore or tell yourself off for having upset. If something bad happens to you, you're going to feel upset about it. It will be crazy to expect anything else, okay? But this is just about like how to support yourself when these things happen. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment below. Sorry if I oh goodness, sorry if I rambled a bit today. Anyway, I'll speak to you in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you soon, well, next week on next week's musing videos. So much love to you guys.